What's up, y'all? I am back for another video. Today we are reviewing A Working Man. I saw this morning in the theater, and honestly, it's probably my third. I have to probably think about this right now, but it's up there for one of my favorite movies of the year so far. Obviously, it's a Jason Statham movie, so you kind of know what you're getting. And it's pretty much the premise is Levon K is a former commando. He works for a construction team, and his boss's daughter's kidnapped by traffickers, and he has to go save her. So it's pretty much kind of like Taken. Think Taken, Rambo the last Rambo movie. And Stallone wrote the movie, so it kind of makes sense. But it's one of those movies where you see a bunch of traffickers just get killed. That's kind of the movie, and I really like it. It's well done. The action's great. Statham is Statham, but I do like, he's also a father. And the one direction I was a little worried that they were gonna go is they're gonna try to take his daughter, and that'd be kind of annoying. Because now he's trying to take both his daughter and teenage. I think that would have complicated it. I'm happy they didn't go that route. They stuck to. And I guess before I go too into that, I also watched Novocaine, which I'll admit I didn't see that one in the theater. I was here watching that, and Novocaine is. Here's how I say it. I wanted to see it just because the premise was cool, and I like the idea of a guy not feeling pain trying to save his girlfriend. But then I think a couple of things. My issues with Novocaine. I like Jack Quaid, but I really feel like he is very one note, and I don't know if it's his fault or because a lot of it could be just be Hollywood. His type. They did that with Batista, but when you let Batista actually get out of his range, he does show you can be really good. Like I know a lot of people think it was good and didn't, but for me, my example was Knock at the Cabin. That came out a couple years ago. He was pretty good in that movie. He's also good in Killer's Game. He has range when he wants to, and not necessarily when he wants to, when they allow him to. I'm hoping that's the situation here. But I really feel like even in Scream 5, even though he's the bad guy, he really still felt like Jack Quaid. It's like he just plays this, like, I know a lot of people want to say like a beta, but I don't want to call him that. But he's definitely like a punching bag, and he's almost like a comedy character. And I also feel like the movie was, they try to have a dumb reveal, like the girlfriend turns out because he works at a bank and she gets kidnapped, but it actually turns out she's actually not a kidnap victim. That the main thief is her brother. I'll be honest, I don't remember the bad guy's name right now off the top of my head, but she actually used to be a thief for her brother, and she was basically on the inside, but she actually started having feelings for Jack's character. And yeah, he doesn't feel pain. And do I think it lost its luster a little bit when they kept doing that? Yeah, I feel like after a while, it was like, okay, the novelty's kind of done. It's a very much a one-watch movie for me. It's not horrible. There's some good action, and I'll be honest, the soundtrack's pretty good. They play fucking Chicago, You're the Inspiration. Do You Believe in a Thing Called Love by The Darkness. They play that. They play a couple of good songs. I was like, okay. And there were some fun sequences, but the one thing I think this and The Working Man both kind of, in terms of criticism that I have for both of them, I think the third act went on longer than it needed to. Like, there was a sequence where it seemingly ended, where the bad guy got shot and the cops all arrive, but then he somehow survives the shot, and then after a while, he's like not even selling the shot anymore. I guess some can say like he did steal an ambulance, so maybe he put some adrenaline or something in himself. But part of me is still like, it looked like you got shot. Where even if you're not necessarily dead, you would not just be moving around like that, like no selling the injury. Because there was points where it didn't even seem like he got shot. It seemed like he was just fine. It was just like, and yeah, there's a whole sequence in an ambulance where his Jack's stuck to an ambulance because he's handcuffed because they think he's a suspect. So he's handcuffed and he has to try to get himself. I'm like, we didn't need this part of the film. It just seemed like you just wanted an excuse to have an ambulance scene when honestly you could have just wrapped it at the warehouse, or you just could have extended the warehouse scene and just have that where it concluded it. And I'll just jump back to the Working Man and I'll finish my Novocaine review here in a second. I think Working Man has a similar issue. There's a sequence in the movie where the teenage daughter, the kidnapped daughter, tries to escape, and then the bad guys have to capture her. Like, I didn't need that. That was like right before we get to when Levon is trying to save her before like the big final third act shootout. And I was like, you could have just kind of cut to him. She's already kidnapped. Just cut to that part, and then he gets there. I didn't need the extra. Like, there's some movies where I just think they want to extend that ending for no reason. Going back to Novocaine, I didn't need that ambulance sequence. The girlfriend's okay. You have the actor who plays Ned from the MCU Spider-Man movies, and I'm sorry, he literally is just Ned. He's another one. It's like couple actors in this who are just very typecast. It seems like in this movie, he's basically Ned, just bald. Like, I'm not kidding you guys. Watch him in this, and then watch him in as Ned in the MCU movies. It's the same fucking character. You know, oh, I'm the friend. Well, he's like an online friend to I don't even remember his name. I'll just look it up really quick so I can just be accurate. So I don't want to just keep saying Jack Quaid. Nathan. Okay, his name is Nathan. So Nathan's friend, they're like online friends and they play games together, but they actually he ends up meeting him in real life. And yeah, he's literally just Ned but bald. I'm not kidding you. It's like Hollywood. You didn't even try. Like, it just seemed like he's just a swap. He's bald now. And yeah, it's not great. It's not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, guys, I don't necessarily think I'd watch it again. I guess if I were to rate out of 10, I'll be generous and give it a 6. It was an okay time, and I'll be honest, that opening like 18-20 minutes was not really needed. It was like the aspect he's trying to get to know her. It almost felt like a different movie. That was when it just straight up felt like a different movie to me. It was like, yeah, but it's not the worst thing in the world, like I mentioned, but definitely won't watch again. It's a one watch for me. So 6 out of 10. It's all right. But anyway, A Working Man. This was I remember seeing the trailer and just being into, because I like Statham and I like these type of movies where you get traffickers just getting fucking murked, and that's basically what this movie was, and it delivered. Like, I love, like, there's a moment he beats up on some gangsters trying to fuck with his like one of his construction workers. So you saw him showcase a little bit of his skills, and you have Michael Pena, who you might have remembered from the Ant-Man movies. He's in this as the father, and yeah, the only character I felt was kind of useless was the grandfather, who Levon's daughter lives with, and I do like it. We have a good father in a movie too. I did like that aspect, but I didn't need the grandpa character. I'm not gonna lie. I was in the theater, so I couldn't uber flip my lid. But there's a scene where he saves his grandfather because the bad guy finds where he lives, so he like handcuffs the grandfather and sets the house on fire so he can basically die in the fire. But Levon gets there in time and he saves him, and the grandfather is still like bitching at him, and that's a trope I just hate. And I get the grandfather's partially because a lot of his character in this movie is just bitching at Levon for being violent. But I'm like, he was a soldier, right? I don't know. It's almost like they didn't want to have a woman bitching at him. I'm gonna be that guy. I just feel like some of his complaints it make more sense if this was maybe he's like if this was like his ex-wife or something like that. That would make far more sense of a character trait. It's felt like weird with a grandfather character. And I'm not gonna lie, it does my head in when characters save somebody and the person they save starts bitching. I'm like, fuck you, I could have let you die. You're like, fuck off, man. So at least he gives them respect in the end, and You have David Harbour as his blind friend who he he's kind of like just a side, he's a friend of Levon who, he lets his daughter stay there while obviously he does his thing in the end. So I kind of get them. He also gives them weapons and stuff. So it's kind of okay. It's a character for Levon to talk to. He's not necessarily like an uber important character in terms of the story, but it's a good movie. Like I said, it's just the third act, like I mentioned, where we're on the perspective of the daughter and she tries to run away. I didn't need that. That felt like that was just tacked on. Like, because then you got the scene before where Levon finds one of the track because he poses as like a buyer so he can find out where these people are located and stuff and get more info. So he poses as a buyer, and one of the people he poses as a buyer to obviously until the reveal. And it did seem like there did a little sequel tease because the father of the both his sons who ended up getting killed, um because Simon, who's the father of both pretty much the people get killed in the end, wants revenge. So it seems like they're setting up a sequel, or this is just maybe a one-off, but they just want to have like a little potential. Maybe they will get a sequel. I mean, this movie did well; it beat Snow White, so honestly, man, I really liked this one. It had heart. It wasn't just a mindless action. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm cool with mindless action movies when done right. So I give this one like an 8.5 out of 10. I really like it. I thought it had some nice funny moments, like the when he first meets the first trafficker. Um, because he has to find some information, and if you remember, it has the one dude who, if you remember from Beekeeper, who was the guy on the phone, who was the main guy on the phone scamming people. Like, yeah, he's that guy in the beginning. So I thought that scene was funny. And fucking sirens. And the action's very like it's not bloody, but it's definitely like they don't. There's some pretty like crazy kills in this movie. Like it, it definitely like they definitely ham up the action. And I love, like I said, I love movies when traffickers get their come on, taken, um, fucking righteous revenge movies. I love. Obviously, like, even branch out to like The Crow, John Wick, obviously. But if you wanted to stick with the trafficker theme, this one, Taken, Rambo, Last Blood, like they really do a good job with that. Like the people you want to get theirs. And like that's one thing I love about these movies too. Like just these general type of action movies. The bad guy is a despicable piece of shit, and that's what these guys are. It's more of an organization. It's not necessarily just one man. Um, so it's not like just a one main big bad. It's just you can almost just say traffickers in general are the bad of the movie. Because it seems like that Simon character, if this they ever do continue, he could probably be the next, not big bad, but like the next villain of the movie. Like that's like a main villain. 'Cause I actually when I first saw him, I thought he was gonna be the villain of the movie, but he really wasn't as in the plot as because he was more on the side. It seemed like. So overall, though, I do like this film. So I definitely recommend actually go to the theater and see it, and I'm gonna go see it again. Even if I can't go see it in theater, if I have to watch it on the seas again, I do want to watch it again either way. So um, the plan is to review Novocaine tomorrow, even though like it was kind of mid. Sometimes mid movies, I kind of just be like, I won't review it, but I'll review it. Why not? I watched it recently. It's in my mind, so I'll review it. But yeah, like I said, it's very mid. One, but mid in the like, it's not horrible. It's just not anything crazy. And like I said, the novelty of him not feeling pain was cool for a bit, but then it loses its luster. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like as like compelling the first couple times. Yeah. So anyway, so I'll be reviewing that tomorrow. Subscribe to Pin Down Podcast. Let's get into this. So the movie starts. We meet Levon Cole, and he works at as a construction worker. He's a former Marine, Royal Marine Commando, from England. He's friends with the Garcia family who runs the company. You kind of get a glimpse of his skills. This is a scene you see a lot in the trailers, where these like gangster types come and kind of bother one of the construction workers, and Jason Statham comes, saves the day, and shows off his skills. Thought it was a cool little action scene. Scares off the bad guys, the gangsters, and I think the Garcia one, Michael Pena's character, Joe Garcia, sees him do it. So obviously that's why later on he asks his, and he meets his daughter. There's a scene there, and their teenage Joe's daughter, Jenny, ends up going hanging out with her friends, and then gets kidnapped by Russian traffickers, and initially turns down. He didn't want to. It's not that he didn't want to do it. It's just he didn't want to get back to killing. And obviously, because there's a scene earlier where his like grandfather tells him off that all you're doing is killing. I didn't need. That was a weird plot. I did like his relationship with his daughter. His daughter is actually a decent kid actor. She's not in the movie a whole lot. Like, I do like their relationship. It's not. It's actually like, she's young enough. She's like not a toddler, but she's also young enough to where you don't. It was actually nice. I'm kind of happy she wasn't a teenager, because it would have been angsty teen, because that's all Hollywood can write. And I do want to make that video at some point, because that trope is just so tired. So I'm actually kind of happy it was just a little girl who loves her dad. That was just nice to see in a movie. But Levon eventually agrees to take matters into his own hands and do the job. So he confronts hold on, I'm gonna look for so yeah, he kills he looks for like information. He finds, I'll just call him a stoner because I can't think of his name right now, but he's the actor who was in he was in Beekeeper, who owned one of the main scammers in that movie. I actually recognized him in the trailer. He just had a different look. And then Levon tortures him until he gets his information, and then a couple of his boys pop in with guns, and they hear him. He screams out, and then basically Levon uses him as a human shield. He gets shot, and then Levon kills both of them with a shotgun, takes the money. Wolo can. I'll just call him Wolo. It's like some Russian. Kalinsk is how I'll say it. Kalinsk. Who he kind of saw in the trailers waterboarding him. he follows them because he finds out his money is stolen, and then yeah, he follows them to their house. And I do like the moment where while he's waiting outside, his daughter calls him, and it's just, hey, I wanted to just talk to you, and it's just like it is kind of nice to see that. Bring that kind of stuff back. Like I'm not saying you can't have bad dad characters, but there was a period there where there was just like a million bad fucking dads in movies. So it's just kind of nice to just see daughter who loves his dad and a good father in a movie, you know. And he's a good father who's willing to help another father get his daughter. It makes sense, you have that like kind of makes sense why you have your daughter. Then it's like imagine yourself in that situation. And he ends up following Kalinsk to his house, and he ends up killing him by drowning him. And he gets information he has to go to Dimitri. That's the next person he has to get. Um, Simon sends his sons Danya and Vanko after Levon, and Levon infiltrates the organization by pretending. But then there's a point he pretends to be a drug dealer, and to make a deal, he goes to this bar where he knows the drugs are being sold and meets the main drug dealer. And that's when he gets one of the action scenes where we see him just take down a bunch of guys, that was a pretty dope scene. That's one of the reasons I would love, reasons I say go see this in the theater, because a lot of those action scenes, man, hit. Like it's like The Beekeeper in that sense, where the action scenes hit. And I said this earlier, and I know some people may disagree with me. One of the reasons, and I think Beekeeper does have a tighter ending, I will say, the third act is better in The Beekeeper, in the sense it's tighter. It doesn't have like unnecessarily extra shit in it. But the reason I overall still think it's better, there's no useless side characters like the random cop. They're not horrible, but you don't have that in this movie. This movie is Statham's movie. I think that's why, in the ultimate sense, it works for me. We're not cutting to. Let's talk about these cop characters doing their cop stuff. I didn't need that in the movie, honestly. I can kind of cut that out. That's why I think this one is a bit better, because this is all Statham largely. Outside of there's a couple scenes where we cut to Jenny. Like there's a scene where one of the traffickers gives her food, and she tries to fight back. And okay, there's a moment in the end. I'll just jump ahead really quick in the way end where while Levon's beating up one of the male trafficker, um, Jenny chokes out the other one with her legs. I'm like, how did she know how to do that? Like, she's like, all of a sudden she could fight. It just seemed like, because I don't remember there being a scene or a mention, she like learned how to fight from him or anything like that. So that's why, like, it's whatever. Like, stuff like that. Because there's even when we get to Wallow scenes, I was talking about this with my friends a little bit, my friend Calvin, who also saw the movie. Not necessarily a criticism, it is something I noticed. Like, how Levon was able to get in his house. You're telling me Wallow didn't have people watching his cameras? I was expecting like, there's gonna be like people at his, then he takes him out, then gets Wallow, but maybe that's part of me, like, I wanted like a cool fight scene, but it made sense, like, because there was a scene earlier, like, no one would dare, like, I think it was one of the brothers mentions, Donnie Arvanko mentions that no one would dare steal money from us. So maybe Wallow didn't necessarily think he was in danger. So maybe that's why. So it's plausible. So like that's why I'm not necessarily calling it a criticism. It's just something I did notice though when I was watching it. Um. So. Um. Before that, there's a scene where Levon talks to his. He has a friend who's a cop. So that was kind of cool to see. So he has people on the inside. So he infiltrates the organization, buys from drugs. He gets close to Wallow's son, Dini. So not Dimitri. I thought it was Dimitri. It's Dini is the name. And Viper and Artemis are the captors. They're the ones who sell the the drugs to Levon the first time. So there's a scene. This is the scene where Jenny tries to run away, and she ends up biting the cheek off one of the people. Basically, I'll just say it, trying to have sex with her, a raper essentially. I'll just call it what it is. Um, and she tries to get, like, she even like fights off, like she kicks the car and causes like the car to swerve, and she manages to get her way out, and she runs away. And he tried, like, I didn't need that sequence. That was like an unnecessary sequence. You could have just took her to the warehouse where the basically where the big final act was gonna be, the big shootout. I didn't need that scene. It just seemed like unnecessary. The third act did get a bit uneven at times. That's where, well, I did like the moments where he was trying to infiltrate, and I did like the big shootout moment. And Lanya and not Danya, I said Lanya. Danya and Vanko tries to capture Levon. Like, he's seemingly caught, but he manages to free his way out. And he kills his sons, and that's why Simon wants to kill um he kind of stays back and watches the carnage from the outside, like, the big shootout. And that's why he wants to kill Levon and get revenge. So Levon brings his daughter Mary to stay with his friend Gunny, who that's David Harbour's character, who gives him weapons. And there's a scene where he sees him earlier on, and he saves his grandfather from nearly, dying of smoke inhalation, or potentially being burned to death, possibly too. And yeah, so now I'm just gonna kind of jump ahead to the big shootout. Well, he gets the location from Wolo Wolo tries to hold. I do love this moment in the movie where Wolo tries to hold like some lady hostage. He's like, "I'll shoot her," and then like, I think Statham says, "I was counting on that," and he shoots Wolo in the fucking hand. It's like, I love when the movies do that, or something does, like when you have that moment where someone has someone in like a headlock and says, "I'm about to shoot him." Like, I always thought, like, why not just shoot them or shoot their hand, do something instead of just. I get the idea, but I do like when they're just like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna shoot," And he basically forces Wolo to give him the location, but he still kills him anyway. And then he gets into the house, and then not Wolo, Demi, sorry. And then he mows down pretty much the criminal in the shoot in the I'll call it warehouse, including the biker gang he bought the drugs from. He killed the biker leader pretty brutal, like stabbed him like in the neck, like he forced himself to basically stab himself in the neck. It was pretty brutal. He kills the remaining male goon, while Jenny kills the other I think he kills Artemis, and then they escape with Jenny. And then Simon basically is told by the organization to leave. Basically, in his words, the devil has what he came for. Leave it alone. But Simon says, "I'm going to go after him. He killed my son." And he basically, the organization says, "You're on your own on that," basically. No one's going to help you. And the organization has, like, I do like that they're evil, but they have, like, they're smart. I like their wording. The devil has what he came for. Leave it the fuck alone. He has what he came for. Drop it. You saw what he did. We do not need to be part of it. It's like the beekeeper when the moment he killed one of the fellow beekeepers, they were like, "Nah, we're out of it, bro. You're on your fucking own." Like, they're like you gotta be smart, you know? Yeah, pragmatic is like the perfect word for it. Pragmatic. That's the word I was thinking of. Pragmatic. That's what you gotta be. Even if you're evil, you gotta be pragmatic. Like I like the wording of the devil has what he came for. It all it that it that all that explains it perfectly right there. Leave it the fuck alone. He has what he came for. We don't. He's not necessarily gonna come back for us now. He does. He has what he needs. Because there's even a line where he's like, "I'm not. I don't want your drugs. I'm not here for that. I just want the girl." Like when he was about to kill Kalinsky, or Kalinsk, not Kalinsky, Kalinsk. Even before you tell him, "I'm not here for your organization. I'm not here about none of that. Do your shit. Just tell me about the fucking girl." That's all it really was. So, but overall, man, I really like this movie. The third act, like I said, it doesn't fall apart completely. It's just a little bit like you didn't need that sequence with the girl trying to escape. You could have just jumped to the big shootout once he got Demi. And yeah, but other than that, it's a good movie. So I had fun with it. It had heart. I like the themes of it. And yeah, I like how the bad guys are just bad guys, no sympathetic villain, none of that shit. They're just evil sons of bitches, and the evil sons of bitches get killed. That's all it really needed to be. And yeah, I do think, while I think Beekeeper had a tighter third act, I just think this one didn't have any stupid side characters that weren't needed. So it was all focused on Statham's character, on Levon Wade. Cade, not Wade. Levon Cade. That, yeah, he had side characters like within his circle, including the grandpa. You had Gunny, but Gunny didn't have like a million scenes. He had like a couple scenes throughout the film, and then he had his daughter. But largely, and I'm happy they didn't go. Before I go to the other point, I'm happy they didn't go the direction of his daughter getting kidnapped, because I was low key worried about that, because that would have just been extra unneeded. Because the movie was sold on he's trying to get Jenny, Joe's daughter, back. We don't need an extra. Oh, he gets his daughter kidnapped. I didn't need that. That would have just been tacked on. That would have just been like extra stakes for no reason. I'm all for extra stakes if it makes sense, but in this, keep it simple. And I'm happy they did in that sense. They didn't tack on like, oh, his daughter also got kidnapped in like the third act, because that would have been forced on, because that's not what I came for the movie for. It'd have been like in Taken. Let's say he had another daughter or something else, and somebody else got kidnapped for no fucking reason. He has to save them too. Same thing with Rambo Last Blood. Now all of a sudden he has to save somebody else. It they kept it simple. It's the one person he has to save, so they kept it at that. I'm happy they went, but yeah, the bad guys are just straight up evil, and I like that this movie went that direction. So overall, 8.5 out of 10, dope movie. I definitely recommend it. I'm definitely gonna watch it again, and I'm probably gonna watch Beekeeper again and kind of compare and contrast for sure. And Beekeeper's getting a Beekeeper too, so I can honestly see a Working Man too. They did kind of set up a sequel where Simon can go after him on his own, and I'm assuming he has some like favors he can get. So other than that, guys, I'm gonna wrap up the video here. Tomorrow for sure we'll be doing Novocaine, talking about that. Kind of, I'm not gonna call it mediocre, but it's damn near close. It's not it's not bad, but it's just not great either. But anyway, talk about that later. But I'm gonna talk to y'all later. All right, y'all. Talk to y'all later. Subscribe to Pin Down Podcast. Peace.